Where's your coffee?
Oh, it's over there.
Hey!
Hello, hello.
How are you guys?
Hola. We don't talk enough Spanish.
We don't.
We don't speak enough Spanish.
Maybe one day we'll do one of these in Spanish. So it is a super comfy, cozy day. We
Rainy.
had a tropical storm that was supposed to come this weekend. It ended up not coming. However, we did get a little bit of the bands, so it's super comfy, super cozy. Philippe and I are drinking some yum, warm liquid libations and just kind of talking candidly. I think we were in the car earlier today and we were discussing some cool
Deep
points.
stuff.
Yeah.
Just like it's gotten deep, you know?
Some cool stuff, and I think it's worth sharing because I feel they're conversations that should be had. But it all kind of stemmed around our 20s, right?
I think we're just like, we're deep into lockdown. Like, some countries have been getting better, ours hasn't. Florida hasn't. Like, people's unemployment is starting to run out, people are getting evicted. Like, this apartment is now, it's home, but it's like there's stuff all over the place, like the lease is gonna end. Like, people don't have jobs, it's like, and I think just like, these discussions are happening more often with people, and I think things are just coming out now as like, these are strange times.
We are prioritizing things differently.
Yeah.
We're prioritizing things differently, and I think that, and I was telling Felipe earlier today that in my 20s, and I'm a little bit older than Felipe, but I think for the most of my 20s, I was setting myself up for my future. So kind of building things like my credit, my career. You know, I eventually wanted to be a homeowner. Little goals I think that I was setting for myself that had a direct path and trajectory. And now, you know, with those things kind of ripped from us, at least in my opinion or in my experience, has kind of warped who I am and what I'm doing and who I am. And I think for Felipe, a little bit of that as well, you know?
I think we were both just like on our game. Like, I think I was with Leo in Disney, like we had like internships, and you had just gotten promoted, you know what I mean? And we had just started new relationships. You just got a new relationship, and I had just recently started dating my boyfriend Leo, and we had both just come into like, we were like on it, you know what I mean?
It was booming.
Everything just stopped, like the world just
Business
stopped.
was booming.
Everything just stopped.
Yeah.
And I think that the middle of March is traumatic for millions of people, and people aren't really talking about that, but if you've made it through the middle of March, just give yourself a pat on the back, because that time was chaos for everybody. I don't remember the last time that everybody has been affected by something. And I remember in the middle of March, like, Disney was closing, people were getting furloughed. We were like, what's happening? I remember my boyfriend Leo, my family was like, you need to stay away from him, he could have the virus. Like, nobody knew what was going on, flights were getting grounded and banned, and I remember like people were freaking out. The grocery stores were out of everything, and it was just like, it was chaos. And I think now things have kind of leveled out into this new normal that we're in now, but it's been a year to just reflect, and there's been so much that's happened since we last talked about the pandemic. I mean, now it's not just about it's not a public health emergency, but it's sort of this cry, this awakening of racism and privilege and economic disparities and people that are fed up and frustrated. And I think we've just, I don't know, I've noticed a tonal shift in so many of the conversations I've had with you and just with so many of my friends. And I think now is the time to just really understand that and educate yourself and inform yourself and have those discussions. You don't have to be protesting, to still just having serious discussions about what's happening in the world and what's happening inside yourself as well, and how we can just keep our minds healthy at this time, because it's definitely isolating. Like, we're not only supposed to isolate, but it's isolating inside your head with what's happening.
Yeah. Have you struggled with mental health?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a couple points today. We're gonna get gritty. We're gonna talk about mental health, or we're gonna talk about identity and all those things. For me, I'm a big extrovert. You and I are both big extroverts. We're like, you know, that Latin, tenemos la sangre caliente. Like,
I get energy from people. I love people. I love ambiance. I love music. I love dancing. I love food. I love culture. And I think being confined to a 10 by 10 apartment where the only way you can access it is through a device and through a screen. And then on top of that, everything that's being filtered through that screen is negative.
It's
negative.
It's just news.
It's news. It's talking about this invisible monster outside that's killing people.
Politics,
it's talking about politics.
people
it's talking
protesting.
about racism. It's talking about all these things that you, as one of 7 billion, feel helpless. Like, you can't really do anything about it. So not only are you confined, you're a little suppressed, and there's no way that it's good for the psyche. And I don't think
No, it's not.
the world has ever seen anything like this or experienced anything like this. And especially us in this state of transition in our lives, being in our 20s, trying to identify who we are. It's like you said, it's really put a pause on our personal lives. I remember this time last year, I just recently celebrated a birthday. And last year on my birthday, like you said, I had just recently gotten promoted. I was entering a new, probably one of my first mature relationships. I had built my credit. I wanted to sign off on a house, and then within a span of a couple months, I lost my job. This lease is eventually going to end.
This apartment.
I don't have a stable income. So it's, who am I outside of those things,
I completely agree. And I've always wanted to work in theme parks, and I had an internship with one, and it was amazing. And there was so much promise, and now everyone's afraid. Theme parks are such a happy place where you forget about the world's problems, and now people are afraid to go there, afraid to go out, afraid to do anything. And I know people are afraid to see me. People are afraid. You know what I mean? It's like you're not supposed to see people. You're not supposed to go out. So it's really difficult. So I definitely agree.
Let's pull up our points.
So the first point, we addressed it, being in your 20s. This is a really confusing time. There's a lot of pressure with school. I think if you went to school or if you didn't go to school, what you're studying, when do you graduate, what internships did you get, what is your plan? Everyone's asking, what is your plan, what is your plan? Being in your 20s, the whole idea of your 20s is that you're trying to create a foundation for your 30s, which is going to build up your income for your 40s, which is going to build up for your retirement after your 50s to your 60s, and then that's it. You know what I mean? So your 20s is such a pivotal time in your life. You're really trying to find yourself, and it's really confusing. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, this is kind of grind time for us, at least. You're a student. Your job is to get good grades and to hit the books and to study. And eventually you want to graduate and maybe go to grad school. But you don't even know if you're going to have classes in the fall.
Yeah.
And then what is the fall? The fall is in 4 weeks.
And you're spending money on tuition when you can't go to class, on a job that you're not sure if you're going to have. And my friends that have graduated and people that had internships canceled, jobs canceled, so it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Finding your identity. That's pretty much, it's all about finding yourself and trying to navigate this really pivotal and weird time in your life.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel, how any of this has impacted your identity, or what things have,
I think,
throughout your 20s, if you feel like you've changed at all or defined who you are.
Felipe and I had very different paths. I think Felipe was always the academic of the family and put all of his energy, I think, towards school. I started working at a very young age, and I think my first job out of high school, I was maybe 18. And I kind of used that to kind of catapult myself into this corporate world. So for the past almost a decade, for the past 8 years, I've kind of been a career woman, or at least built myself up to being a career woman. And so much of myself and so much of my identity was tied to this workplace. And my identity,
you've grown there, you've gotten promoted, you've stayed there for a while.
My identity, who I identified myself as, was my resume and my business card and the weight that carried. But right now, at least at this time, I don't have that. And it's kind of been bittersweet in a way, because there is this whole creative avenue of myself that I've been not really suppressing, but almost I forgot about it. I forgot it was there because I had been spending so much time working that I forgot I knew how to paint. I forgot that I enjoyed reading. I forgot that I enjoyed, dancing and creating and cooking and baking. And those are all things that I feel, especially during quarantine or when the lockdown first hit, that I started doing, and I was like, holy crap, is this who I am? Is this part of myself?
You're
And
exploring new parts of yourself.
Exploring different avenues, being creative, trying new things, has been fun. It's ultimately been fun. But it's sad because I do kind of miss the hustle of working. And I kind of miss, establishing a name for myself. So I'm torn. What is my identity? I don't know. I'm kind of torn between these two worlds, I guess the right brain and the left brain, if you will. But that's how I've personally been affected by it. I've definitely struggled with mental health also. I think being away from friends, being away from family, not being able to, go out to a bar,
yeah,
or go to a restaurant, or just walk down, a busy street and people watch, or casually invite people over for dinner to host people.
There's nothing to distract yourself.
That also was a huge part of my life, that social interaction that was so easily attainable. Being able to say, okay, I'm getting off of work at 5:30, let's go to happy hour, or what are you guys doing? It's Friday night.
Yeah,
let's go dancing.
What does Friday mean?
Let's have some wine. Let's take some tequila shots. I think that social component of my life no longer exists, and that also was a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And now it's gone.
I think social norms have all changed.
All the social norms have changed. All
Yeah.
the social norms have changed. How has it impacted you?
I definitely kind of spiraled a little bit. I stayed inside and I thought that I was on top of everything, and then I realized that I was not doing okay. It took me a while to realize that, because I was still trying to create a routine, and I was still trying to manage the tasks that I had to do and manage work and everything. But it definitely just takes it takes a big drag. It takes a huge toll on your mind, and there's a big drag that you don't realize, where every day just starts to feel the same. I'm in pajamas all the time. I don't really go out. My gym was closed. I couldn't exercise. That was a huge thing. And it really brought me to this low place where I had to exercise from home, and I had to kind of retrain my brain to do a lot of normal things that I was used to doing. And I think for guys, for men especially, there's male mental health is not talked about. It's not talked about. It just doesn't.
I think mental health in general has such a stigma behind it.
That you're emotional, that you're sensitive, that you're you need to man up, or you need to toughen up, that you can't handle. You know what I mean?
But for men,
it's so much worse. It's just hyper.
So much work, and I feel like there's so much pressure on the male to provide. Right? I think biologically, you guys are wired to be the providers, right? I think the females are the homemakers, they're the nurturers, they're, maybe the gatherers, the nesters, but the men go out and hunt, and they bring home, the buffalo, or the bacon, whatever it is metaphorically. But I think as a man, you're supposed to always be strong, and I think that the moment that you show emotion, it's categorizing you as weak. But that's not the case. I think that there is strength in being able to say, hey, I'm sad.
Vulnerability.
Or, what I'm feeling this way, or I'm angry, or I'm annoyed, or, I'm happy, or I'm struggling. I think that it's really difficult for men to openly talk about.
Yeah, because it's you're just acting like a girl, or it's always like a girl. If you're not acting a certain way as a man, it's like a girl, or you're weak, or you're emotional, or you're difficult. And I think in times like these, especially where men can't easily distract themselves, you can't go to bars, you can't see your friends, you can't do a lot of things that you're used to doing. I think it puts a lot of your mental health to the test. And I think that I believe I've really come to my own identity in my 20s, in this pivotal time period of my life. And there were so many things that influenced sort of this higher level thinking that I used to not have, that I acquired over time, that through gratitude and mindfulness and meditation and growth. And I think if you're a guy that does yoga or meditates, or it's sometimes people look at you strange, really, man? But I think that it's been so healing and meditative, and it's been to be able to be a male and to be a guy and to access emotions and to access sort of this fluid inner peace and to work on your mental health and mindfulness, I think is so essential. And I think that everything is an energy. So there's definitely masculine and feminine energies, and I think that it's not talked about. I think like girls act a certain way, guys act a certain way, and I believe in the masculine energy. I can feel sort of like this manly side coming out when I take control, when I can lead, when I feel determined, when I want to get a task done, or when I feel like I can handle like a situation where I reach a new goal in my fitness, or I'm out and I'm strong and I'm active and I feel sort of like in touch with my manly side. And then I think when I can open up about my mental health, when I can talk about I'm feeling really sad, or I'm still feeling like I'm really missing this person or this experience, or you know what, this particular moment has really affected me a lot, and I feel my feminine energy, and to be a guy and to feel feminine energy, I love it. And I think that it's so important to understand that, and that to not suppress or bury those sides of your identity, and that masculine and feminine energies are fluid, and you can have one or the other at different times, and you can access both of them, and you should, to reach a healthier mental health. And I think when I think of the feminine energy, I think of like nurturing, healing, talking, caring, showing emotion, vulnerability, helping. And I think that it's like the yin and yang. Like I think they both interact to create a more holistic person. I don't know how you feel about that as a woman.
That's something that I've very much struggled with in my 20s a lot. And I think being in a corporate environment and kind of having that structure has put a lot of weight, or like, metaphorical pressure
in the workplace as a girl, as a woman.
I remember as my career slowly started to grow, it became harder and harder and harder to be taken seriously as a woman.
It's like the glass ceiling, right?
And I remember when I got promoted to manager, and I can't remember who it was, but someone told me, you need to cut your hair.
Someone said that?
Someone said, you need to cut your hair. And I said, why? And they said, because it's distracting to the men that you are going to be supervising. I had men that were my age, maybe even a little bit older, that I was managing. And it's funny because as a woman, you are immediately sexualized and objectified. Whether you wear, a low-cut top, or whether you wear a skirt and show your legs, or whether your heels are a little bit higher, you are always going to be sexualized by a man, subconsciously, either consciously or subconsciously, because again, that's how they're biologically programmed. So being in that environment, I would have boys that would call out, and I would have boys that would show up late, and I would have boys
and
when I would walk into work, it was much harder to command respect, because I would get a cute little metaphorical, pat on the head, like, oh, cute little girl who wants to be a manager, right? So, but then, the moment you become cold, there's a stigma that you are a bitch, pardon my French.
Control freak.
Or you're a control freak, or, she's so moody, whatever else. So finding that balance of being authentic, being myself, being a woman, but also being able to command respect when you walk into a room is very tricky to navigate, and to find that kind of harmonious balance. But I cut my hair. I cut all my hair.
You cut it?
I cut it all off.
I didn't. You never told me this.
When I got promoted, someone told me, and it was a woman.
Oh, and woman too. That's like.
She said, throw away all your skirts. She said, give away all your dresses. Throw away all your skirts, go buy some suits, and cut your hair. And it's so funny because the moment I did that, I remember walking into a boardroom, and there was a shift in the energy, right? And I pulled it back, I had on a blazer, I didn't show any skin, I didn't show my legs, I didn't show my arms. My hair was gone, I maybe wore very minimal makeup, and there was a complete different shift of attention in the room when I had to bring up a point, or when I wanted to validate something.
And that almost upsets me that it has to be that way too.
Because I want to celebrate my womanhood. I want to show off my...
If your hair looks nice,
of course in a professional manner in that environment, but you want to show off your legs, and you want to show off your arms, and you want to curl your hair. You want to curl your hair, you want to straighten, whatever it is, There are parts of me that are me physically, that for a period in time I did suppress, and kind of, in order to elevate that masculine energy.
Yeah.
Right? So it's tricky. I think
you have to navigate.
for me, it was kind of finding that balance of commanding respect without having the immediate response of misogyny or that stigma of being cold or abrasive, you know. And I'm still learning.
I'm still learning too.
Yeah.
I'm still learning too. It never stops. You are always improving yourself. And wait, can we use that to go into the next step? Yes, we can. Embrace your authentic self.
There we go.
You are always improving yourself. You are always learning. I found too that I spent a lot of time alone, and that's through like a darker period in my life, I spent a lot of time alone working on myself, learning about myself, learning about things I could improve with myself. And I had reached a much higher elevated mindset, a place where I felt more comfortable with myself and my identity. And after that, I felt comfortable enough to eventually open myself up to a new relationship, which I was afraid for a while. My boyfriend Leo, that I love him. And I was able to enter the new relationship with confidence and with a greater happiness and level thinking. But I realized interacting with someone else and no longer being alone, I realized that there were more things that I needed to work on with myself. Especially in a pandemic, there's things that stressed me out that I didn't realize, wait, you know, I thought I had reached this higher state of mind, but it's like, no, you are always learning and growing and figuring out your identity and molding your identity and maybe changing parts of your identity. But it's like, that's the part of the fluidity that is life and yourself and becoming your own person and navigating your 20s. But I don't know how you feel.
It's hard. I think authenticity is such a weird word because I always feel like I'm unapologetically myself. But there are times where I feel like I have to apologize, right? Like it's so easy to maybe say something out of line or to say your opinion or to, you know, maybe you feel like you're being too loud or you're being too submissive and you're just like, I'm sorry, I'm just having an off day, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to say it that way, or, you know, and I catch myself doing those things when that was just my immediate response to something, you know, or how I wanted to react in that moment. So it's like you said, I think we're still navigating, we're still trying to find ourselves. You know, we're in our 20s, right? We're still, you know, learning how to walk. You know, eventually we'll be running and sprinting and then gallivanting, whatever else, but it's all part of the process. It's a weird time for the entire world, so I don't think we should put too much pressure on ourselves.
You're doing the best you can. We all are.
And I hope that for you guys, you know, whatever age you are, whatever gender you are or identify with, you know, be yourself and do what makes you happy. Be creative, stretch those creative muscles, you know. Find your feminine energy, find your masculine energy, you know, or if you want to put the light on one, do it, but unapologetically. And because you want to, not because someone tells you to, or because that's what society expects of you.
No.
Be yourself.
Be yourself, work on yourself, find yourself, discover new things about yourself. Well, I guess we can call it. This was a nice, woke discussion about mental health. I actually feel better. Like, I feel better talking about this. Like, I feel like I don't feel like as bad or like as like these times are tough, but it's like we're doing the best we can.
We gotta talk.
We're gonna talk more. We're gonna talk more about different things. This is definitely not the last video where we talk about like deep conversations like this and how we can grow and learn as people and as humans. But I hope you guys are all doing okay. It's a tough year.
Hang in there, guys.
Hang in there. We're hanging in there.
And at least we have each other.
We have each other. Give me 5. We got this. Bye.